Let me just start on recordings. How's everybody doing out there in space today? It's been kind of a wild week, huh? Good morning. Um, we are coming off the second full moon in Capricorn, making that a blue moon, which occurred yesterday, Sunday, July the 21st. Um, and there was a lot going on with that full moon. Good morning, Emily. Nice to see you, my friend. So yeah, we're coming off a pretty intense week in space. There's been a lot of this and a lot of that and a lot of upheaval and a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty and insecurity and nervous system activation. And I think that this is being reflected on the global scale and also in the internal level, right? The above and the below, the inner and the outer, these are all sort of intermingled in our experience of the reality show of life. Um, and I think this is one of the things that astrology brings to the party is the kind of hermetic understanding that as above, right? And what happens in the external world is a reflection of what is happening in our internal world, and what is happening in our internal world is a reflection of what is happening in the external world. And I think one of the things that's really come up for me this week, with the astrology and with the world events that are sort of co-arising. And I think this is a really important thing to consider, is that things are co-occurring and co-arising and are working sort of in tandem. Astrology doesn't cause world events, right? But I think that what is happening in the relationships of the planets is mirrored on Earth. And I think that as we as individuals and we as a collective of sentient beings make choices, that is also being reflected in the cosmos. And so we are not sitting here just being acted upon by the rays of the planets and their relationships. We are in a sort of co-arising cosmos, that our actions on an individual and on a collective level are also impacting what is happening in the greater sphere. And in a Jungian context, right, the sort of one of Jung's ideas was that by doing our shadow work, we are relieving the pressure of the collective shadow. And by doing one's own inner work through therapy or through magical practice or through alchemy or through meditation, however, like you want to show up to do that inner work and whatever inner work means to you, that is also having an impact on the collective, right? And I would say it's also having an impact on the cosmos. And I don't think it's just about like sitting there and meditating and being like, I'm dealing with my shadow, so it's all good now, right? I think that that is part of the game, and I think that it is very easy to be like, I'm going out and saving everybody else, and I'm not doing any work on me, right? Because look at all these people that I helped, right? So I'm good over here. I think that there is a relationship between the work that we do in our inner ecosystem and the ways that we show up for the collective and the external world. And again, the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as above, right? So we are intrinsically linked in a greater sort of relationship or web of relationships, not just what's happening at a horizontal level on the earth plane, but in a cosmic level. And so, as as this sort of week unfolded, which had a lot of Uranian energy, and we can just like rewind the tape for a minute, and we had the Uranus-Mars conjunction last Monday, I believe. That was the 18th. I don't know. But it was very recently, right before that, Trump was shot in the ear, and then that threw a lot of things into upheaval. And then yesterday, Joe Biden stepped aside as the presumptive presidential nominee and bowed out of the race, and that brings up new levels of unknown and chaos. And just paying attention to the astrology and the news feed and then just the vibe of what's happening in the world over this past week, there's a lot of like intense energy, and I think that one of the things that we can consider is as we are sitting in the intense energy, what do we do in ourselves to help regulate our nervous systems, to find that centered place, to find that grounded place, and be able to like kind of discharge that in healthy ways or whatever that looks like for you, so that we're not carrying that energy into all of our interactions. And I think, as we were talking about this sort of inner reflection and outer reflection, there's a lot of like news media, there is Instagram, there's like all of this stuff being like chaos, right? And danger. And right, it like creates all this nervous system activation. And then how do we take that and sort of like woosah, right? And discharge that energy and come to a grounded and centered place so that as we show up in our day-to-day life, as we are ordering coffee or going to work or driving around, we are not sort of carrying that chaotic energy and bringing it out onto other people, right? And increasing and amplifying that chaos. How are we able to sit with it, to sit in the unknown, to sit in the chaos, and to discharge that, to breathe it out, to release it, to kind of dial it down a notch, right? And just like one person dialing it down is not going to turn everything down from 11 for the entire world. But I think that as we dial it down in ourselves, it also helps to promote calm in the general collective. And so one of the things that I just want to urge you as we are thinking about, the big changes that we are all navigating, is how we can show up for this to contribute in skillful ways to the collective energy, to the vibe of the party. And I don't want to say that chaos is bad, because I think it's an integral piece of the web of life that we are kind of surfing. And also, the ideal in my mind is a sense of balance. And there's a lot of chaos out there. There's a lot of chaos in the external world. And so how do we create spaces of calm and coherence in the self to bring that vibe, right? And to contribute a sense of like, stability into an otherwise chaotic system. And so, with all of that, welcome, my friends. Happy full moon, and congratulations on making it through another week in space. I'm Jonah Emerson Bell, or the Blind Stallion Space Wizard, your host with the most, here to bring you all the astro weather that you need to navigate this week with grace and style. I just want to give a shout out to Astro Star Live, which is a great astrology app that I am an advisor on, and I do this weekly program because of them, because they asked me to do it, and I do it through their app primarily. I also give other talks on the AstroStar Live app, and I'm one of many competent astrologers, real live astrologers who have real live astro wisdom that they are dropping on a regular basis on the AstroStar Live app, including Bear Hickman, who I do a podcast with occasionally. They have the Inspired Astrology podcast, which when we have time, I do the full moon episodes with them. Sam Reynolds, who is one of my mentors and one of the best astrologers that I know, he's on that app, and Cameron Allen and other great astrologers who have spoken at NORWAC and ESAR and are really forerunners in the field of astrology. So if you're interested in joining a pretty vibrant astrological community and learning more about astrology or getting a reading, check us out on AstroStar Live. I'm an advisor, like I said, and I'm available for readings through that app. Okay, so now we're here. Welcome, everybody. Um, let's see here. I don't even know where to start, to be honest, because like it is so full on. But I feel like the best place to begin would be a little recap of Sunday's full moon. Yesterday, Sunday, July the 21st, we had a full moon in Capricorn. This is a blue moon, meaning the second full moon in the sign of Capricorn. And so this is kind of a culmination of things that began around June the 21st, which is the first full moon in Capricorn, which, oddly enough, is about a week after the presidential debate between Trump and Biden. which I think kicked off a lot of the calls for Biden to step aside. And I also want to say that I don't like I feel like there's a lot of politics being thrown around, and that is like pretty dysregulating to the nervous system. And so I don't really want to dwell on that too much. And also, I think it's a pretty stunning reflection of what is happening in the cosmos. And so I'm gonna try and mix like not just dwell on terrestrial politics because I think that's kind of lame. But also, I think that it's really exemplifying the energies that are happening through in the spheres, in the relationships of the spheres. So, anywho, we had this full moon in Capricorn on Sunday, the second one. So this is a kind of culmination of that Capricorn energy that has been building, and this has been happening as the sun has been moving through Cancer, which is the sign opposing to Capricorn. So we have Cancer, which is cardinal water, Capricorn, which is cardinal earth. And this kind of relationship, this dance has been happening since the very beginning of the sun's ingress into Cancer. The first full moon was at 1 degree of Capricorn, meaning that the sun was at 1 degree of Cancer. Full moon is the opposition of the sun and the moon. And so, as we get the second full moon in Capricorn, which is occurring at 29 degrees, which is the last degree, that kind of anaretic degree, where there's a lot of tension because it is sort of any planet at that last degree is looking over the edge, being like, what's going to happen next? It's sort of like a kid being dropped off at camp, right? And their parents are they're about to be like dropped off at camp and their parents are about to drive away, or their first day at school, or you're like walking into your first day of a new job and it's like, oh my God, what is this going to be? Is this going to be good? Is it going to be bad? So there's a lot of like fraught energy there. And so one of the ways that I think about the Cancer Capricorn axis is in terms of safety. And Cancer is building kind of emotional safety through home, through family, right? Through the emotional connections that nurture and nourish and support us. And Capricorn is building external structures that provide physical safety. And so Capricorn is sort of leaving that like home space, that family, that known, right? And going out in the world to sort of take what they have received from that home place and create something big and meaningful and lasting. And I think about Capricorn as the goatfish, right? And if we think about the goat half of this goatfish, they are climbing the mountain, right? And they're like, I'm going that way. I am achieving, and taking the sort of concrete, practical Saturnian steps to make their way up the mountain to, achieve that mountain climbingness. And so, one of the things that we can think about with this sort of Capricorn desire to get to a high place is this the right mountain for me? Right. And this comes from my teacher, Stephen Forrest, one of my astrology teachers. And he was talking about this in relation to the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, which happened a couple of years ago at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And we're going to be revisiting this soon because Jupiter will be making their first square to Saturn, which is kind of reactivating that conjunction, which was sort of a big deal. Anywho, Stephen Forrest was talking about with that conjunction is, what is the right mountain? You know, what is the right mountain for me? What is the mountain with the gold on top? And I think that that is sort of reiterated during this full moon. A full moon is a culmination point where we are seeing, okay, like that seed that was planted way back when, right, is now come to light, has come to this sort of full point, and what is worth keeping from this, and what sort of needs to be set aside as we move into the waning phase to create new space for something new to come along, right? And so full moon can bring a lot of intensity, and it can be pretty extra. It can be really hot, and kind of emotionally hot. And I think that we have this opportunity, and this opportunity is not past because we are moving into the waning phase now as we are letting go of the things that don't serve us, right? And we can consider, what is the mountain that I am climbing? What is the thing that I am building? What is the thing, like, what is the work that I am doing to sort of forge ahead to create a future for myself and the ones around me? And like, what is not working here? Right? Or like, what is the work that still needs to be done? And we get this kind of reflective point, and a full moon is literally a reflection. It is the sun's light reflecting off of the mirror of the moon, and us being able to see things in a different way. And if we think about this, we can't look at the sun's light, right? You burn your eyes out. And it is through the reflection of the moon that mediates that powerful light that allows us to soak it up, right? To be able to actually see it in a way. And so, this gives us the opportunity to reflect on the things that we have been working towards and working on, and the things that are not working, right? Or the tower that we are building that has separated us from our path. And this is an opportunity to sort of reconfigure and to let some things go and to ask again, is this the mountain that is right for me? And if it is not, then what needs to be adjusted? And I think that there is an element of being like, oh, I've invested this time and this money into this thing. And that's what keeps people gambling, right? Is being like, oh, I already put $10,000 into this, right? I need to keep going to get my investment back. And like, that then 6 hours later, you're like, okay, I'm $100,000 down, right? And to think about like, what is the investment of time and energy that I've put into this thing, and what am I hoping to get out, and what might need to get adjusted to bring that into a better sense of alignment for who I am now, who I want to be in the future, and honoring the decisions that were made in the past that have set us on this path. And so, along with this full moon, which is, enough in itself, this sort of mystical blue moon, which only comes along once in a blue moon, there is also the moon is at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and right on the other edge, right, in at 0 degrees of Aquarius is Pluto. So this full moon was, for all intents and purposes, conjunct Pluto over the kind of boundary of sign. And, I think Pluto brings some serious survival fears to the party, right? And again, this Cancer Capricorn axis is really thinking about safety, emotional and physical safety, and what we are creating in our lives to create a sense of safety and belonging and being. And then Pluto comes along and is like, right? Like that's all an illusion. And, death is right around the corner. And I think it brings up like some deep survival fears, and it activates some survival mode. And, we will be talking about this a little later in the program, because today, Monday, July 22nd, the sun having just entered into the sun just having entered into Leo is opposing Pluto. And so, that we'll unpack that in a moment as after I do this recap. But I think that this Plutonian sense with this full moon was like, oh man, what's going to happen? And I think in the kind of wake of Biden's decision, there was an emotional roller coaster that I went through, and maybe other people went through. I don't know. But, and I think all of this is encoded in this full moon chart, because we also had Mercury and Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus, which is shocking information, right? Which brings nervous system activation and nervous system energy, right? And like, oh, nervous energy, like what's going to happen, right? Shocking information, what's going to happen, right? Um, the sun was trine Neptune, which, while it brings a creative and kind of visionary and imaginative vibe to the party, it also brings a lot of confusion. And so there's like shocking news, and then what's going to happen, right? I don't know, like who's going to run, what's going to happen, what's happening next, what's happening now, right? And then the Pluto, like deep survival fears around, oh God, right? Everything might be falling apart. And that was like just part of the emotional roller coaster of this full moon. And, also maybe part of the emotional roller coaster of the news. So I just wanted to sort of like unpack that and bring a little context, because I think it's, been pretty big. And, also in this full moon, we had a Venus in Leo sextiling Jupiter and Gemini, which helps us to, be social, to take it easy, right? That's the two benefics getting together and having a conversation. And they can be like, nah, we all good, right? Let's just go like hang out with our friends. And I think that the sun in Cancer trining Neptune and Pisces can also be like, oh, I don't want to participate with this, right? I'm going to just sort of like check out a little bit. So there's a lot of like, oh man, this is scary, this is weird, this is uncomfortable. And then some other energies that are like, you don't have to be here, right? And so I also want to just bring in that I think it is grueling to try and be present with everything all the time, and I don't think that's possible. And it brings us into a state of overwhelm. And I think a response to that is being wanting to check out, right? Wanting to disassociate, wanting to not be here, feeling overloaded, and then either shutting down or disassociating or checking out. And so, what I would just suggest is the ways that we can create a sense of presence in our lives, right? The ways in which we can be here, that we can experience the sort of challenge and difficulty without needing to abandon ourselves or evacuate or check out or leave, right? And also, when we are like, this is too much, what are the healthy things that we can turn to be like, I need to, ground or tune in or be in touch with something that feels sustainable and supportive and not necessarily like doom scrolling the news or Instagram, right? And I think that these things bring like immediate sense of like relief, and I think that the news is like, oh, if I get to know something, then like I will have power over it. And I think one of the things that Pluto really brings to this is being like, you have no power over anything, right? There's forces that are bigger than you that are running the show. And that sucks to hear, but that's the truth. And that is the wisdom that Pluto brings is like there is stuff that is bigger than you. Pluto is very slow. Like has it's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years, right? That is a long, slow moving cycle that is churning up a lot of stuff that we are just sort of like tossed in that washing machine. Right. And it's like, okay, we can find agency where we can, but there's like bigger situations and things afoot that we don't get to control. And what we do get to control is our responses to external events, and what is our relationship to the external events and the ways that they are impacting us, and how do we show up for that without being obliterated by them, right? Without like checking out, without abandoning ourselves, without getting lost, right? And also recognizing that we can't control the things that are outside of us or bigger than us. So, anywho, that's just the brief recap on the full moon. And now let's kind of go into this Pluto energy because we have Pluto opposing the sun. But first I'm going to take a sip of my energy beverage. First, we have the sun entering into Leo. It happened today, Monday, July the 22nd. So the sun rules Leo, right? The sun is at home in Leo. The sun is like, it's all just like gold, right? Sun puts on their sunglasses and they walk through their like, golden place. They put on their very fancy golden robes, right? I'm wearing my kind of sparkly Leo hat today in honor of this, right? And I think that the sun, right, it is the center of our solar system. It is the center of our identity. It is the center of ourself, and what does it do? It shines its light. It brings its light into the world. And so I think as the sun enters back into its home in Leo, it's stepping on stage and claiming its place in the spotlight. And one of the things that we can think of as the sun moves through Leo, whatever, your kind of personal chart is, right? But the sun in its home in Leo, in its domicile, is, learning to shine its light into the world, and this is our time to shine, right? The height of summer. It's our time to soak up the rays and to shine our light into the world. And I think, you know, uh, one of the things to remember is that when I shine my light into the world in my unique way, that doesn't mean that you can't shine your light. And I think that there's the myth of capitalism that says there isn't enough, right? There isn't enough space in the spotlight. There isn't enough sunshine coming from the sun, right? And that we need to compete with each other and struggle against each other to receive these things, right? And I think that the truth is, and I know that this is the truth, that there is enough sunlight to go around, right? And that the sun shines its light equally on everybody. And so, one of the ways that we can think about this is, being able to take our place in the sun and to stand in that light and to soak it up, right? And to take our place on the stage and to shine our light into the world. And by doing that, that doesn't mean that somebody else can't, right? Or that I'm going to take all the sun or I'm going to take all the good places in the sun, right? What we are learning to do as we come into alignment with the sun in its power and its domicile is recognizing this is my unique way of shining my light, right? Which other people are not going to do the way that I'm going to do it. Y'all are going to shine your light the ways that you do it, right? And God bless you. And I support that. And I love that. And I want to see that. But like, you're not necessarily going to do it the way that I do. Even if you're an astrologer, like, we're going to have different takes on things. I'm going to have a different costume, right? I'm going to have a different way of showing up and explaining these things, which I like does not take away from anybody else. And I think that what's really important is that we have a multiplicity of light shining into this world, right? So that we can all soak it up, right? And we are all these sort of individual suns. We are all these kind of pills of energy who are moving around through this world, radiating our light. And I think that the myth, again, is like, you can't do that. If you do that, that's bad. That's egotistical. That's obnoxious, right? If you do that, then you stand out and that's dangerous. If you do that, then you overshadow other people, and that's obnoxious, right? And I think that is not true. I think that we all get to take our place on the stage in the talent show of life, which I think is what Leo is all about, right? We get the opportunity to step up on the stage and to do the thing that is uniquely you, right? Playing the Star Spangled Banner through, like, a harmonica on your nose or whatever your unique talent is, right? And so, this is an opportunity for us to really think about, how do I shine my light, and what is the light that sustains me, and how do I take my place in the sun, right? And as we do this, we give other people permission to shine their light as well. We give other people permission to take their place in the sun. And I think that this is incredibly important. And I think that this is really valuable because we are all, like, what Leo says is that we are all the unique and beautiful children of God, right? Whatever God that means to you, right? Whatever, like, I like to think of it as the stuff, and we are all the unique and beautiful children of the stuff, right? And so, oh, good morning, Reese. Nice to see you, my friend. You are also a unique and beautiful child of God, my friend. Good morning. Also, one of the things that we can think about with Leo is that it is fixed fire. All right. And so what does this mean? What is a fixed fire? So if we think about Aries, who initiates the cardinal sign, right, of Aries, which initiates the triplicity of fire, you can think about this maybe as like a dude with a gas can and a lighter, right? Who's just like starts the fire and lets it go, and it's just like, burn, baby, burn, right? And then Leo comes along and is like, okay, what do we do with this? What do we do with this raging inferno? Right. And so I think Leo is really like, maintaining this fire, right? And I think about like a furnace that is burning bright, and thinking about what is the work that we do with this fire? What is this fire for? And how do we kind of maintain it and keep feeding it? And so one of the things that we can think about as the sun moves into this fixed sign of Leo, as we claim our place in the light, as we shine our light into the world, is like, what is the thing that sustains this fire? Right? What is the thing that sustains your light? And we can think about how we feed this fire, right, so that it can sustain. And then Sagittarius, which comes along in the winter time, right, in the fall moving into winter, is this mutable sign, is the mutable fire, sort of carries that torch forth, right, from the fixed fire of Leo out into the world, and maybe shares that fire with other people. But right now we are thinking about, okay, like, we are kind of building this fire and tending to it and fueling it, and considering, okay, what are we cooking here, right? What is the work that we are doing? Are we smelting metal? Are we cooking soup, right? Are we making s'mores? What is this fire doing? and to think about what it means to sustain a fire in ourselves and in our community and in the world. You know. And so that's sort of my little spiel on Leo. I think we will be circling back around to it in a little bit. But the next thing that we're receiving also today, Monday, July the 22nd, a little later in the day, is as the sun moves into Leo, they are opposing Pluto, who is in the opposite axis in Aquarius. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 0 degrees and 52 minutes. And so just as the sun enters into Leo and is like, I'm here, right? Love me. Oh, my adoring fans, right? There is Pluto right across the way, right? Who is bearing down on them. And that, again, Pluto has a lot to do with survival fears. And so, everything that I just said about Leo claiming their place on stage, doing their kind of showing their unique talent, Pluto is across the zodiac being like, right? That is dangerous. It is dangerous for you to be seen. It is dangerous for you to stand out, right? Pluto in Aquarius, which is the collective, right? And this sort of collective vibe that if you stand out, you'll get cut down. And so I think that is one of the survival fears that Pluto is bringing in Aquarius, right? That the opposing point in Leo, being able to like stand up and stand proud and shine our light, is dangerous, right? And I think the sort of remedy to this is to think about Leo as, the unique individual, and Aquarius, which is the collective, is we are all unique individuals, and how we get to be a unique individual and an individual sun shining our light bright in a sea of suns, in a sea of light. And I think about the kind of quantum physics model of the particle in the wave. And, Leo as an individual sun is a particle, right? A one me doing my particle thing, right? Particle man, doing the things a particle can, right? And then the other side in Aquarius is the wave, right? All of these particles together in a wave. And, is it a particle? Is it a wave? It depends on how you want to look at it. Right. And here with this Pluto Sun opposition and the really activated axis of Aquarius, where Pluto is going to be for the next 20 years, minus a little time between September and November when they retrograde back into Capricorn. But Pluto is really activating Aquarius for the next 20 years. And then the flip side, the polarity point of Leo, right, is how do we show up as an individual to contribute to the collective, to the whole, right? How can I be an individual particle in a wave of particles, right? And how does each individual action and each of us being the unique, beautiful children of the stuff, right? How do we show up as a collective to bring our light into this sea of light, you know? And again, it's just like how we choose to look at it, right? And being able to hold both simultaneously, I think, is the ideal, right? Is that it is both a particle and a wave. Who knew, right? Quantum physics right there. So, the opposition, right? And Pluto in Aquarius and the sun in Leo, right? Opposition is like a full moon point, right? A full moon is the sun opposing the moon, right? And shining its light on it, reflecting it, being like, whoa, that is the thing that has been building through this cycle, and now it is coming to this culmination point, right? This is the sun opposing Pluto functions in a very similar way, right? This is halfway through their cycle. And this is a culmination point of the seed that was planted during the Pluto Sun conjunction, which happened on January 20th of this year at 29 degrees and 59 minutes of Capricorn, which is like the last possible minute of the sign of Capricorn. So the sun came into conjunct Pluto at that last possible minute, and that occurred at 8:45 in the a.m. Eastern time. And then about 11 hours later at 7:56 p.m. Eastern time, Pluto entered into Aquarius, marking the kind of beginning of a 20-year cycle. And so this Pluto-Sun opposition that we are basking in today is the culmination in many ways of a seed that has been planted way back when, January 20th of this year, just before Pluto entered into Aquarius. So this is carrying this, like, and if we think about, like, Pluto is in Capricorn for 15 years, right? And this is 15 years of energy kind of like compressing into the last possible moment, right? And in that moment, a seed is planted that now we are seeing that come around and come to this sort of culminating moment. And it's like, oh, damn, that that's what we're growing, right? And I think that's pretty interesting, right? To just reflect on, oh, wow, that's happening in the world. And also, like, what's happening in me, right? And what are the things that began back in January, right? And the things that have been unfolding since then as Pluto entered into Aquarius and is sort of chopping it up in Aquarius for the past couple of months, right? Uh, let me just checking my notes here. Okay. And so yeah, and Pluto is moving retrograde, and so they're going to enter into back into Capricorn for one last caper on September the 1st, and they will be there until September the 19th. So basically just in time for the US presidential election, which I'm like, man, you can't even you can't write this stuff, right? This is like and Pluto is a planet of transformation. It is a planet of death and rebirth. It is also a planet of initiation, right? And so we get this opportunity to reflect on the seed that has been planted and growing since Pluto has entered into Aquarius. And we can think about, what is being transformed, right? What are we needing to let go of, right? What are we needing to compost? And I think compost is a really good word with Pluto because it is about like letting go of what no longer serves us so that we can allow it to kind of mulch and transform and become fertile soil for something new to grow, right? And it is also an initiation. And I think that that Sun Pluto conjunction that happened January 20th has initiated something that now we're like, oh, that's what it is, right? And I think that there's something in all of us that has been initiated. And Pluto kind of abducts and takes to the underworld, abducts and brings into the unconscious, and it brings up unconscious urges and desires, things that need to be dealt with and worked through, right? And Pluto is an archetype of the shadow, and as the sun opposes Pluto, it is very easy to project our shadow onto the other or onto them, right? To maintain our solar coherence of this is me, right? And like everything that is not me is them, and that is bad, right? And so Pluto is like, yeah, I'll take that, you know. And I think one of the things that we see with Sun and Pluto, Sun is coherence, right? It is the center of the solar system, the center of the ego identity, and Pluto is chaos, right? The Sun holding the cosmos together, and Pluto is the like things are breaking down, right? Sun holding the ego together, the identity. This is me. This is who I am. And Pluto is like, if you weren't you, what would you be, right? Or like, we're going to start dissolving that or breaking that down or composting that. And that can be really intense, right? Because a lot of sense of self and a lot of culture and society is focused on being able to beat back the chaos. And if we think about, the sun moving into their home in Leo, right, we can also think about, Ra in his solar boat, right, who in the nighttime, in the underworld journey, battles Typhon, the forces of chaos, right? And Ra is the cohering factor, right? The solar deity who then in the underworld battles the forces of chaos. And so every night there is the tension between, the solar coherence and the forces of chaos that want to sink that or tear that apart. And I think that the Sun-Pluto relationship really brings that into context, is the forces of coherence and the ways that we are seeking coherence in the self and in the world, and the forces of chaos that are threatening that, you know. And I think that everything functions on a pendulum, and what we are looking for is balance, right? We're not just looking for coherence because I think that creates very stale structures, right? That can't change, right? And change is chaos, right? Going from the known to the unknown is chaos, and that is also incredibly important for growth, right? And so, being able to hold like a sense of coherence and a sense of identity and the ability to hold change and upheaval and the chaos and transformation that is required. And I think this is part of that initiation, right? The initiation is being able to allow ourselves to move into the chaos, right? To let the old die so that something new can be born. And, something about the old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born, and now is the time of monsters, my friend, which is said by Antonio Gramsci, who is an Italian communist, and he said that in the 30s, right? And I think that is still relevant today. And oddly enough, I'm named after Gramsci, or my middle name is Antonio, which my dad gave to me. He studied Italian communism, and he gave me Antonio as a middle name because he was really into Antonio Gramsci. And I think that this idea, right, of like the old world dying and something new struggling to be born, and that in between is that like Typhon, that chaos, right, the time of monsters, and um, and how we like how our job as part of this initiation, I think, is to like co-create the world that is being born, right? And that is like in many ways, I think what Pluto is asking, right? And we are seeing kind of become manifest on the world stage is like the old structures are fading away. Right, or the old structures are in chaos. And so, what are these structures that we can create at an individual and an internal level, right? That can create something new, because I think what I have learned from Pluto's time in Capricorn, and I think that this is going to be reinforced with Pluto's time in Aquarius, is that the reliance on power to and control to structure our lives and to provide support for the most vulnerable and the most needy is not going to happen. Right. I think that it is our responsibility as individuals who are, in connection with each other, with the planet, and with our communities, to create structures of mutual aid and care that support each other instead of relying on an external force far away to give us what they think we need to live and survive. You know. I think it's up to us to begin to make the changes to create the world that we want to see. And, that is not like, again, Pluto is much bigger than us. So we get to do this at an internal level and at a small level. And I've never seen The Girl with All the Gifts, but maybe I will put that on my watch list for this week. Thank you. So, back to this. How are we doing on time? Well, we are where we are. So back to, I think the Sun and Pluto's opposition, right? And this like outsourcing of the shadow onto Pluto, right? And I think also the Sun shining its light onto Pluto, right, is like, oh, we get to see that shadow, like everything that we have like kind of dumped into the shadow, like now gets illuminated, right? Because the Sun is shining its light. It's sort of like, that corner in your house that you've just been throwing all the stuff into, right? Or the compost heap that we have just been throwing all this stuff into. And now the sun is shining on it, and we're like, oh, that smells bad and that's gross, right? And maybe we should do something about that, right? And there is probably also a desire to be like, no, I don't still don't want to look at that, right? But I think that it is really revealing some things about the shadow and what has been festering there. And just coming back to the political sphere for a moment, if Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee, which I have no idea if that's going to be the case, but if Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee, I think what we're going to see is the full force of American racism and misogyny rearing its head, right? Which I think, those are parts of the American shadow, right? The underlying kind of shadow forces of racism, of misogyny, of white supremacy that, have been with Pluto's kind of movement through the last degrees of Capricorn have been bubbling up and then, get sort of tamped back down. And I think that they are bubbling up again as Pluto is making their way back into the first degrees or the last degrees of Capricorn, and I think as this that seeding moment is coming to light, and I think that, as whatever happens in the political sphere moves into its next phase, it's going to bring up the deep shadow of American racism, of misogyny, of white supremacy, of patriarchy. And I think that these things are going to be on full display on the Leo stage, especially because Mercury is going to retrograde on August the 4th and move back over all of these degrees, right? So it's going to be reactivating all of the stuff that we've been talking about. This whole last week is going to be reactivated by Mercury retrograding through Leo, and it's going to be like a polyester shirt that you went dancing in, right? And then it gets a little wet, and it's just like that smell, right, is just going to emanate off of it. And so that's something to look forward to. Okay. Um, yeah, I think I think I said what I needed to say about the Sun Pluto opposition. Um, and we've got a couple more things. I'm just going to whip through them pretty quick and wrap it up here. So on Thursday, July the 25th, Mercury enters into Virgo. And so Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So Mercury feeling pretty good for, I don't know, about a week, because on August the 4th, Mercury is going to station retrograde at 4 degrees of Virgo and make their way back into Leo, like I was just saying, reactivating that stench, right? And reactivating everything that we're like, oh, that's been settled. It has not been settled, right? Everything that has been activated over this past week is going to be reactivated or need to be rethought or reconsidered or redone or reimagined. All right, we're gonna have to talk about it all over again. So just get ready for that, right? And so Virgo is an earth sign, right? And Mercury deals with communication and making connections, right? That is Mercury's primary job. And so, what are the ways that the earth makes connections? What is the way that the earth communicates? And, you know, thinking about what are the forms of communication that exist in the natural world, right? How does water communicate? How do animals communicate, right? How does the ground communicate? How do trees communicate? And one of the things that I think about is mycelium, right? The underground network, right? That is the way that the earth sort of communicates with itself, and the trees communicate with each other, right? And so maybe we can think about Mercury and Virgo as a mycelial network, you know. And we can also think about the ways in which we are able to replicate mycelial networks in ourselves and in the world, right? I also think about the wisdom of the body, the intelligence of the body, of the physical body, and as Mercury enters into Virgo, being able to listen to our bodies and come into a deeper sense of communication with the body. And the gut brain is something that comes up for me because I associate Virgo with digestion, right? With how we digest information, right? And to think about the gut and the wisdom that the gut has, right? And how, you're like, oh, I had that gut feeling, right? That's Mercury and Virgo, right? We can think about that gut feeling and to pay attention to what that inner wisdom feels like when we feel that tension there, right? What information is that giving us when we feel a relaxation in the belly, when we feel hunger, right? How that is helping to support us. Um, Somebody suggests Qigong, or doing somatic yoga during this time, which I think is great, right? To tune into the wisdom of the body, right? And to also think about ourselves as nodes in a mycelial network. Right. And yeah, to think about the ways that our brain replicates mycelial networks, right? The ways that our bodies might be nodes in a mycelial network and how to tune into that wisdom of the earth and of the body. I also think about Mercury retrograding back into Leo, and Leo, Virgo is like understated, Virgo is quiet, Virgo is diligent, Virgo is like focused on information and is digesting it. Leo is like, it's me, I came up with it, right? Listen to me. And, I think about Mercury and Leo as the mushroom, right? That pops through the surface of formed by that mycelial network and the information of the, Earth collective. And then the mushroom popping through and being like, I'm the one. Look at me. I'm polka dotted. So just leave space for the mushrooms to pop up, right? Which also might be like poisonous and they might be like kind of funky, right? They might be moldy, right? So I think that's one of the things that we're going to get as Mercury retrogrades back into Leo's. They're going sort of underground into this underground network of information, the information of the forest. And then as they move back into Leo, there's going to be a tendency to be like, I figured it out, but I don't know if you actually figured it out in a retrograde. But we shall see. We shall see. For the time being, what I would suggest is to think about the levels of somebody says, I think I'm one of the mushrooms. Good. I support that. I support that. I support everybody being their own unique mushrooms here. And as Mercury enters into Virgo again, coming into the wisdom of the body, right? And giving a little space for what your body is telling you, especially in these like really intense kind of high stress nervous system activation times, to tune into what the body wants, not like what the mind wants, but to be discerning about like, this is the information that my body, that my vehicle is giving to me. And the ways that the body is also connected with the collective, right? And we are always picking up information, air temperature, right? The wind, the texture, the feeling, just the somatic sensations of being in space. And how to give a little bit of space for that information that comes at the body level, right? And how we discern, right, what is important and what is not important here. And I think that is also part of the Virgo archetype, is that discerning, right? Detail oriented and discerning. This is what is useful. This is what's not useful. Mercury and Gemini is like, bring it on, right? I'll read anything. I don't care. I just want information. Mercury and Virgo is like, this is the information that I'm looking for. And to think about, what is the information that you are looking for here? And I think, we can look for the information that helps me to stay grounded, that helps me to stay connected, that helps me to know on an intuitive and inner level what is right for me. And discerning, this is right for me, this is not right for me, right? Scrolling through the news, not right for me. You know, tuning into my inner wisdom and sense of connection with the mycelial network, like right for me. So just a couple things to think about. And then yeah. Also on Thursday, July the 25th, the Sun in Leo will sextile Mars in Gemini at 3 degrees and 37 arc minutes. Sun-Mars relationship can help with vitality, right? Sun is our energy source and Mars is active, right? So like if we think about taking action from that like inner knowing and that kind of vital sense of self, right? And Mars in Gemini is willing to ask for what it wants, right? And the Sun in Leo is willing to be like, I'm me, look at me, right? And then Mars, go ask for what I want, right? So this may be a good time if you've been waiting to say your piece or ask for what you want or ask for what you need. Thursday might be a good time for that, especially with Mercury entering into Virgo, a sign of their rulership, where there will be ruling that Mars in Gemini. And I think that Mars and the Sun can bring a sense of confidence, right? And the sun gets like an ego boost through, the martial actions that we take in the world. Um, this also is like self-assertive, right? So being able to assert ourselves and direct ourselves towards this is what I want and this is what I desire. And I think that there is, the sun wants to be seen for, who it is. And with Mars in the action, it wants to be seen for its physical abilities and its heroic actions, which I think is very fitting because I believe that the Olympics starts the very next day. And I think Sun, Mars in a supportive aspect is very Olympian, right? Being on the world stage, showing your athletic prowess, right? And so, again, there's a capacity to deploy one's will and strengthen the service of one's goals, right? So this is a good time to go after what you want, but again, using that Mercury sense of connection with the, gut brain and discerning this is what I really want versus like this is some bullshit, right? And being able to assert our individuality, which the sun in Leo is all about. And then also on Friday, July the 26th, Chiron stations retrograde in Aries at 23 degrees and 32 arc minutes. Chiron, the wounded healer. So I believe as Chiron goes retrograde, we are kind of like rethinking our healing, right? And I think that healing is sort of endless, and there can be the like, oh, no, took care of that. Like that's done. But then I think that what happens with the Chiron retrograde is that some of these core wounds will be reactivated. And this is an opportunity to go back and really tend to the places that, we split our stitches or that are still like a little grimy, it's still a little funky, that still hurt, and to be able to give ourselves the care and compassion and to, also learn the lessons that have emerged through our healing journey and through our healing process. Right. And Chiron is also a teacher, not just the wounded healer, right? So what can we teach? What have we learned? What have I learned through this journey that I have taken, and, about myself and about my capacity to be with discomfort and my capacity to heal? And how can I share this with other people? And I think that is really where Chiron becomes exalted, is in the teaching of this is what worked for me. Oh, that sucks. I went through something similar and this is what worked for me. This is the way that I've been able to do it. Right? Can I like sit with you and help you as you go try and navigate this for yourself? Which is one of the reasons that I'm here doing this is part of my kind of Chiron work, right? Is heal the parts that have been wounded and the ways that I've worked to sort of soothe those. And part of that is being able to help other people and being of service. Um, um, nice, nice, yeah. Their mama 555 says my wounded healer part has found a new way through, and I'm able to sit in it now. That's beautiful. Um, and so the other thing about the Chiron retrograde, the Chiron will be retrograde until December the 29th, when it stations direct at 19 degrees of Aries. And does anyone remember what happened at 19 degrees of Aries? Well, if you don't, I will tell you that was the point of the total solar eclipse on April the 8th, right? Remember that? So, we are also like, we are kind of involved in these bigger cycles of time that are kind of unfolding and refolding and re-unfolding, right? So I think that this Chiron retrograde is going to bring us back to what was activated with that total solar eclipse and the themes that came up that eclipse in Aries at 19 degrees of Aries. And oh, excellent. That's the day before your birthday. Happy almost birthday. You get to have a Chiron station direct birthday. And so we're about at time, but in the spirit of the Pluto opposition to the sun in Leo, I just want to bring in one kind of closing thought. And let me take a sip of this. And one of the ways that the archetype of Leo is the lion, right? And one of the ways that we can think about this is through the lens of the tarot and the strength card. And I think I brought this in for Venus opposing Pluto, which happened a week or so ago. And I didn't get to kind of finish my thought, but this strength card depicts, this person holding a lion's mouth open or maybe closed. And we can think about the lion as that id, as that plutonic, as that underworld, that sort of wild animal part of the self. And the person here, or maiden, as the kind of solar identity, the ego identity, the one that's like, this is what is right for me, right? And coming into relationship with that animal force of the chthonic underworld or the id drives. And so I wanted to bring that in because I think it's really relevant this week. And just to close with, I want to read you a little passage from Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Way of the Tarot. And this is one of my favorite books of all time, in any genre. And one of the things that Hortorowski does in this book is gives a kind of monologue from the perspective of the tarot card or the archetype. And I just want to close by reading you the "And If Strength Spoke" little section. It's brief. But I think that this really ties the room together with the Pluto-Sun opposition. So, if strength spoke, I was waiting for you. I am the beginning of a new cycle. And after all you have accomplished, you will not be able to live if you do not meet me. I shall teach you to defeat fear. With me, you will be ready to see all, hear all, taste all, touch all. The senses have no limit, but morality is made of fears. I shall enable you to see the immense swamp of your impulses, both the sublime and the murky. I am the dark force that ascends inside you towards the light. From the center of the depths, from the underground chamber of my being, springs forth my creative energy. I take root in the mire, in what is the densest and most terrifying and most demented. Like a burning oven, my sex exhales desire that at first glance seems bestial, but are only the song of buried, but are only the song buried in matter since the beginning of the universe. My intellect, light originating from the stars, cold as infinity, acts upon the eternal heat of magma to produce the creative ore. Heaven and earth unite in this howl, awakening the world. I can make every humble stone become an artwork. I can cause spindly trees to spout with sap-swollen fruit. I can transform the horizon line into a living purple slash, like a long and endless ruby. Each print my powerful feet leave in the mud behind me is a hive that fills with honey. I let the sublime and the ferocious urge the world needs circulate in my body from top to bottom, like the wave of an unleashed ocean. Call it whatever you like: sexual potential, energy of matter, dragon, kundalini. It is an immeasurable chaos that takes shape within me. In my belly, a devil and an angel join together as one, forming a whirlwind. Like a tree, I splay my branches towards the sky while burying my roots in the earth. I am a ladder with which energy simultaneously climbs and descends. Nothing scares me. I am the beginning of creation. So there you all go. Thanks for tuning in to another week in space. I am your host, Joan Emerson Bell, astrologer extraordinaire. The Blind Stallion Space Wizard. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate y'all being here. I'm an advisor on the AstroStar Live app. You can check me out. It is a free download. I am available for astrology readings through that app, and I also bring you this show weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. There are a bunch of other great astrologers on that show, and also I have a weekly astro weather forecast that I do, which is a radio show where basically you can get all the information that I just said to you in a musical form, because for this radio show, I play the music that I find fits with the transits of the week, and there is quite an eclectic vibe going from Robert Johnson to Miley Cyrus, and everything in between. So if you're interested in checking that out and getting your astro weather in a much more musical form, you can check it out on SoundCloud under Camp Wizard Camp. I'll put a link to the show in my stories on Instagram. I'll put a link on the show notes in YouTube, and yeah. It's a passion. Oh, and their mama 555 says the best ever. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Um, and it is a labor of love, and I was up until like midnight cranking it out last night. So yeah, I will put a link to that. Check it out. This week's show is excellent. And check me out on AstroStar Live. And stay tuned for some more Astro weather next week. And yeah, be well, my friends. I wish you a beautiful week in space. Stay centered. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Don't get taken out of your alignment. And until next time, may the force be with you, my friends. Be well. Take care. Have a great week in space. And I will see you all next time. Same wizard time, same wizard channel. All right. Bye now.